was the house on the left.
Yeah.
Right there. And then it like cut off. I couldn't see any more numbers. I'm like, I don't know if we're in the right place right now. I was like, let me just call.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, exactly. Usually people who are not from this area can find it pretty easily. But we found local people cannot find it for nothing.
I would like to welcome everybody back to Alabama Care. And today we're going to be talking about helping Alicia navigate her community with Alicia and with her mother, Sonya. Alicia is here, and she will be joining when she wants to. Maybe a little bit later, maybe in a couple of seconds, but it's totally up to her. So I just want to say thank you for being with us here today. And we're going to do a little bit different today. Miss Sonya has written an excerpt that she is going to share with the community about her daughter's 25-year journey. And I am going to be asking questions throughout. And if you have any questions during the broadcast today, please put them in chat and we will bring them up there. So at this point, I'd like to hand it over. Sonya, if you'd introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Alisha Maini, and my daughter Alicia has autism and bipolar along with ID. And
she's a very happy child.
Oh yeah, she's very happy today and everything. We were very lucky. She was just coming out of a downtime where she was would throw a lot of fits and was very anxious, and yeah, it's a rough time period and everything when she gets into those moods. But when she's in a good one, everything's just amazing.
Yeah, she's been smiling since we got here. She definitely caught me off guard when she did that.
Oh yeah, she loves tickling.
Yeah.
Loves to tickle.
I was just like, what's going on here?
Yeah, she'll kiss people.
Very friendly. But you said she kind of knows right off the bat if she likes somebody or not.
Oh yeah, she's definitely got a very good discernment and to read people, because we've had probably like caregivers and stuff or services that has come before. And she would be like telling them like bye, and everything, and they're like, "Oh, you're going to go for a ride," and no, she's wanting you to leave.
Yeah.
She's telling you, she says, "I love you, bye," and I was like, "Oh," they're like, "Oh, she's so sweet," and everything. I'm like, "No, honey, she's telling you to leave."
That reminds me of my aunt. She is nonverbal, but she has her own communication.
Yeah.
And when she's sick and tired of either me or somebody kind of being around her, she's just like point her hand to the door, like, get out of here.
Yeah, it's time for you to go.
Yeah, totally get it. So, well, I would like to, in this excerpt, it kind of gives a little bit of history and some of the challenges and struggles that you and Alicia have had. So I kind of like to dig right in, if you don't mind kind of taking us through this. Yeah,
of course. So Alicia first, the pregnancy was normal. She was a very happy baby whenever the delivery was normal too and everything. I mean, it was easy going and everything. I had no problems whatsoever. And then the first year of her life was awesome. It was baby heaven. She was so happy and sweet and loving, and she would even, I even did this too when I was a kid, but I remember my mom telling me, about 6 months or so, she comes up and I'm holding her and she just reaches up and kisses me on the cheek, but then she's doing the suckling.
Yeah.
Oh, it was so sweet. And I remember my mom telling me about me doing that too. But then when she was about at a year, everything was developing normally, and then what was it? She just wasn't responding to her name or spoken language and stuff of any kind, but she loves Blue's Clues. Still to this day, she watches them on YouTube now. But she would be in another room, and it would be on the lowest setting possible. And then as soon as she would hear it, she would come running straight to the TV.
Yeah. So it wasn't like a loss of hearing there. Anything like that?
No, and that was just it and everything. So when we went to the doctor at a year, I think it was maybe there's a visit somewhere about maybe 9 months or so before the year visit. But the doctor told me then, he says, "Don't be surprised the next time you come and everything that she's not going to like me much." And I was like, "Why?" I was like, "She's been so good." And see, when I was a child, I was playing my sister, and I had fell, and I got this cut right here, and they had to stitch it up without numbing it.
Oh, yeah.
And so they had to hold me down. So my mother always told me everything, that I was very apprehensive around doctors and stuff, and so I did not want my kids to be.
Yeah.
And such and everything. Well, the next visit we went at a year, she started throwing a fit, and I could not hear them. No matter what, I don't know what it is about her cry, but my brain just shuts down. I can't process nothing.
Yeah. So
And-
was there something that happened there with the doctors? You think that kind of caused some trauma there for Alicia?
I don't know. I mean, because it wasn't, she didn't have like shots or anything like that at
Yeah.
that time. It was just, she just started pitching a fit every time we would go anywhere.
Yeah.
And it wasn't, and then it started becoming, it didn't matter if it was question if she was going to fit, it was this when was it going to happen. And so it got really hard. I mean, of course, that leads into isolation and stuff. You don't really want to go out and do anything if your kid's going to be throwing a fit and everybody's staring at you.
Now, you mentioned here that, during that time, you were trying to get some answers on why she wasn't really responding to her name, those types of things. And you write here that it was an agonizing waiting 3 months.
Yes. So it started out that she, the year visit, we mentioned, I think my husband went with me at that time, and he said something about that she wasn't, doing stuff. And the doctors recommended then to go get her hearing tested. And it was, the appointment took 3 months. It was like 3 months in between each one.
Yeah.
But she first had to go to Gadsden because we lived in Aberville at the time. She had to go to Gadsden to a hearing clinic down here. And that was very frustrating itself because they were they found that she had some hearing loss, and I was like, that doesn't make any sense, because I could tell she could hear. But
Well, when she's hearing Blue's Clues in the other room at
Yeah.
the lowest volume,
Yes.
it's not the hearing
she's
loss.
got to
but
be able to hear it. Yeah.
there's something there where she's not acknowledging the name. But if you could, I feel like that's I've heard that before with families where it's like and even with my grandparents. So with my family member, she would constantly throw up and wouldn't breastfeed. And my grandmother was picking up on that, and she would go to the doctors, and they're like, no, everything's fine. But she kind of knew that something was off. And when you have doctors or specialists telling you one thing, but you kind of feel like deep down there's another thing there, it can be very frustrating.
Yes, extremely frustrating. Well, anyways, then, but the way they were doing the test was they had me and Alicia in my lap, and the lady would show her a toy and then tell her not to touch it. And I was like, well, any child's going to come frustrated with that.
Yeah.
Anyone. But so that's how they found that she had some hearing loss. I was like, and I told my husband, I was like, there's no way that that's true. Well, anyways, then it was another 3 months that she went to Children's in Birmingham. And they said her hearing's fine, but she seemed to have communication problems. That took another 3 months, but it was right across the hall. I was like, can't we just go over there right now?
Yeah.
And don't wait another 3 months. So anyways, then I can't remember much about that appointment other than they said that she's definitely has some delays and she would be a good candidate for early intervention.
I've heard that before where it's like now I don't have any kids of my own, so it's not like I'm familiar with going to a bunch of doctor's visits.
Yeah.
But I've heard that complaint before where it's like you have to schedule these things, and it feels like all you're doing is going into downtown Birmingham for doctor's visits. And I've heard of other programs that are kind of changing that around where it's like you come in one day and then the doctors rotate around the clock for you on that one day.
Oh,
which
that
I
would
think
be
is
great
a
and everything.
great
They didn't
thing.
do that then, though.
Yeah, we're still working on it.
Yeah.
So then there was some communication. The doctor thought there might be some communication delays. And then what was the next step there? Was it more early intervention? Did you guys?
Yeah, it was just early intervention from then on. She went to, I didn't know much of our rights at that time and the protocol for what was available to her. She was able to go, I had to take her to a place in Gunnersville and for her to get speech and occupational therapy, and they combined it into one session for one 30-minute session a week.
You feel like that's adequate?
No, nowhere near. I mean, and then so I tried to learn as much as I could and ask plenty of questions during those time periods of why they were doing what they were doing and how they were doing it, and try to mimic as much as possible at home for her to learn. And
I feel like that's so important. And I feel like when you get a great teacher, she will emphasize teaching the parents as well.
Yes.
Because a half hour a week just isn't going to cut it.
Yes.
And especially if you're there with your child throughout the day, being able to reinforce those practices it's like, making your kid do homework when they get home from school.
Right, yes.
You got to reinforce
exactly.
what they're learning there.
Yeah, exactly. And you need to do it in the same way that they learned it in school so it will make sense to them.
Yep.
You have a different way of doing it, but still, though, you need to do it their way so they can learn it quicker.
Yeah.
Then they can make their own pattern.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Exactly. And then, but there was supposed to be, well, we did have a lady who was coming out once a week for an hour in home, because that's where all of that's where it's supposed to be for early intervention, is all in the child's world, is their home.
Mm-hmm.
And but eventually the lady taught me into doing it at a different time, which was a huge mistake, because then it just became iffy if she showed up or not. Mm-hmm. At least whenever we were doing the therapy, when my husband was home, she was consistent in coming, and we was able to learn together. So I wished I wouldn't have changed that. But
now you say here that be grateful for what you have.
Mm-hmm.
That was a feeling that you had
yeah,
where it's like you felt like there should be more services available for Alicia, and you felt like kind of the response from maybe some of the professionals was you should be grateful for what you have.
Yeah, so how that came about was the 310 board was having a meeting with the parents and everything to bring them together and everything. So hopefully their intent was to get parents talking and collaborating and so on. There was another couple who had showed up. That's not what their intent was, but they also they were questioning some things, but they knew more of their rights at that time. Mm-hmm. And, but they were kind of off-put that other parents didn't know, and they felt like they were all alone in that. I was like, well, if I had any idea, I would have been, I want better services for my daughter. But that's how I started learning about how important it was to know my rights.
Yeah.
And to know rights for Alicia, because she wasn't able to voice it. I mean, she's our responsibility, so we had to do it.
And those rights, they didn't come about overnight. That was, years in the making.
Yes, exactly.
I think it's really important for everybody in the community to know those. We did a broadcast with Ashley Ray, who's a lawyer, and received services early in her life there, but she was saying the same thing. Like, you have to understand that this is kind of a strong footing for you. If you have disagreements or you know what you want in life, you have to be able to kind of pull these out of the backpack and use them when you have to.
Right. And now I know I didn't put this in here, but I do want to do a little shout out. But it was there was Taka. You're familiar with it? That's talking about curing autism. It was an organization that started up out in California. There was a very concerned mom who brought that back here, and anyway, she would have meetings in Birmingham at Mitchell's place. But anyways, that's how I learned more about early intervention, rights and all and everything, and the super haven that a family has during those first 3 years of a child's life, that they can get all kinds of therapy, horse therapy, even if it's fish therapy, whatever kind of therapy you want to try to do, they were responsible for covering it. Mm-hmm. We were even told by the 310 board at that time that they were responsible for doing Alicia's testing and at Sparks. And they told us that and everything, and Sparks was telling us, get it in writing. Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, they're saying this, and I was wanting, this is the organization, trust them and everything, because that's their job. But anyways, they did not pay not 1 cent, and then it was just shifted around and blamed on someone who was leaving at the time, and I was like,
you feel kind of
betrayed.
And like you're swimming in a big ocean and there's nobody there around, and you're kind of getting shuffled around between a lot of different organizations. Those organizations have people coming and going,
right?
And maybe you and your daughter have a personal relationship with maybe a case manager or a therapist, but they may be gone the next week, and then it's all over again.
Right, exactly. And then, but with the Sparks evaluation, it took about 3 months in between each one of those visits, and so it almost took her nearly a year. And she got that diagnosis, I think, right before 3 years old, before she left. And they were really surprised that she wasn't diagnosed with autism then.
Okay. So it took a little bit longer there. So you have So you've gone through early intervention, and Alicia's received the diagnosis. What does preschool look like then?
Okay, and then in preschool, see what she do in preschool.
It'll be the second paragraph there.
Okay.
Yeah.
She had, oh, okay, yes, it was at, up in, where we were living at. She was able to attend the local preschool for, well, no, that's not quite accurate.
Did you have a positive experience with the preschool there?
No, well, yes and no. The teacher was a speech therapist, and she was a very happy, jolly person and everything. And she had several students, I think like up to maybe 5. Because I remember one time I went in and it was a domino effect, but they were all around the little circle table.
Yep.
And one started crying, the next one, then the next one, and the next one. I just looked at her. I said, "You sure you don't need some help?" She's like, "No, I've got it. My eight's coming. Everything's good." I was like, "Bless you."
Yeah.
But, I mean, but
you need a cup of coffee or
yeah,
something?
yeah, anything. But she had Alicia was going to school, I think, at first and everything, 2 days a week for only 2 hours for each day, and it did get up to, I think, 4 hours before she ended. But that was when my husband had gotten his new position at Honda. And so we was going to be moving, so she wouldn't be actually entering into that school system. We would be moving down to where we live at now currently.
And moving is tough, and I hate moving. It's just a big, but you're navigating the disability community. And you and Alicia are navigating this, and on top of that, you're moving. So that's like a double, so you got to start all over again in a new community.
Yes, exactly.
Because a lot of these services are local services.
Oh, yes. You know what? One thing I didn't put in here was that there was one night my husband was watching a newscast, and in the newscast, they were telling a story about this therapist. But the thing was we were, from what we understood, that we would probably have to go like to Florida to get this training done and everything. And it was been, I was all prepared for that, and found her number and called her, and she was out in Huntsville, and she was able to come to our home to teach us about behavioral therapy. Now, it wasn't ABA therapy back then because they didn't have ABA therapy when Alicia was little. But it was, she was trained in this low-vol style, I think, of behavioral therapy at that time. And she was able to teach me how to work with Alicia. So before moving down here and everything, I had learned how to do that. And then when we moved here, I was doing all of her therapy. And then she would come once a week to kind of like give me a break.
So it sounds like you had a pretty good experience with her. Just out of curiosity, what are some methods of that therapy that you and Alicia would do here at the house at that age?
At that age and everything, it first started off and everything, just getting her to come and sit in the table. And so you had to do just, as soon as she would sit down, you would do some interaction a little bit and everything and leave it on a positive note. She had to comply with it, and then she could get up and leave the table, roam around the room, whatever she wanted to do.
Yeah.
But then the main thing was getting her to come back to the table. And so it built up on top of that. And then you would do activities of like just showing her flashcards, getting her to recognize them, and then checking to see how accurate she knows those. And then like there was this one, it was horse, and I was telling her therapist, I was like, "She will not touch this thing for anything." She says, "Oh, that's behavior. She knows it. She just will not touch it."
Oh, yeah.
And she is down that way too, and everything about colors.
So
because,
in a lot of ways, she's surprising you in what she's telling you she knows.
She's very smart, extremely smart. She just doesn't see the point, I think, sometimes in what we value as a society. She doesn't value to do.
Like my aunt, one of her goals a couple years ago was to sit at the dinner table with others and not eat off their plate.
Yes, Alicia went through that too. Yeah.
And she's doing great with that now. She does, she still kind of wants the urge to get more food, but she learned that that's not an acceptable thing to do at the table there.
Yeah.
And so those are some of those goals. And then there are other times when she really surprises me, like her favorite chair is by the back door at at her house. And sometimes I'll open up the back door and just get on the back porch for a second. Well, she'll turn around and lock me out of the house and just be laughing hysterically in there. And it's like, those surprises, like she knows exactly what she's doing.
Yes.
So that,
yeah.
go ahead.
Yes, Alicia's done that to us too.
Yeah.
She locks our garage door and we can't get in that way.
So we've kind of talked about the education system and early intervention up until about 5. Let's talk a little bit about Alicia's experience, kind of K to 12, and what that looks like.
Okay, so when we moved to this school district, I was contacting the school district to see about what kind of testing or whatever would need to be done, and they said that we would have to do some testing over the summertime before school started. And I was like, okay. So I brought her in and then we did all the testing and everything. And then I never did hear anything from them, even up to the first day of school. And I'm like, and first day of school, there was a little bus that showed up and everything and was honking outside. And I was like, hello, what are you here for? And they were like, oh, we're here to pick up Alicia. And I was like, and where are you going to take her?
Yeah, like who are you?
Yeah, because we didn't have anything that was offered to us at that time. No, not an IEP, nothing. And when we did so, they said, well, we're supposed to, and I said, where are you going to be taking her to? They said, oh, to John Jones. And I went, so here, I'm sorry, I mentioned the name. I don't believe the name. Where our school district is, we live in one town, and then there's a bridge that separates to another town, but these two school districts kind of combine as one. But each town has its own elementary school. And that was being predetermination on their part, and without discussing it with us first. And
like the onboarding process there wasn't seamless.
Yes.
And it should have been done a little bit earlier.
It was actually, and so there wasn't a meeting done before school started. It was a couple days into the school, that first week of school, that we had an IEP done. And since they were doing all this stuff, I had contacted a advocate because, again, I know my rights and everything, but yet I'm not understanding enough on how to enforce those rights.
Yep.
But this school district just seemed to just have this wall up, and they put up their walls up like really high up because I had brought in SEAC. I think that was what the organization was called at the time.
Alicia, would you like to sit down? Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, come on, Alicia, sit down.
Not yet?
No.
Well, anytime you're welcome. But you kind of feel like, frustrated there that, why do you think there's that pushback from schools?
It was just a union, as far as I can tell, and everything from what I could see of it and everything, that they were just, again, it was that quote you were saying earlier and everything, be grateful for whatever we give you.
Yeah.
And, we know better than you, and no, we're not going to do this. And
you feel like every step for Alicia has been tougher than maybe
extremely tough.
Some of her other peers.
Oh, yes. Oh, much more and everything, because my youngest daughter she's typical, and no problem. She went to our local, to our city school, and they were a completely different attitude. They wanted us to volunteer, to come in, but yet at Alicia's school, it was like, don't come. We're all good. We don't need you volunteering. We don't want you back here. We have confidentiality. We got to protect the other students, but I'm like, these children can't even speak for themselves. You should not have any, it's always blown my mind because we've had so much in our history of our country of bringing up about how children are being abused and stuff, and we're all outraged about it. Even more so if they are disabled. But yet, how is it that an institution such as schools and stuff don't have cameras throughout it to show what is going on throughout the day?
Yeah.
Not just for the students' protections, but also too for the teachers' protection. So they can show, yes, we are doing this. But that was the other issue I also had too, that Alicia, her grading system, it used to drive me crazy. We constantly were asking to understand on how are they coming up with these goals, and then how are they measuring these goals, and then why weren't we getting a copy of their test results and stuff and everything, how she getting this, letter grade or whatever.
Yep.
And it went like this. I kid you not. It was 1, mastered, 2 was made some progress toward the goal, and that was it.
That was it.
And I was like, what are you basing that on?
Yeah.
Now, I never got not one thing. We were going through all of her paperwork and stuff. Nothing. I think we found like one sheet that had 100 on it. That was it.
It's really frustrating because, I don't think anybody wakes up that is in this community or serves this community, whether that's through the school or through a state organization, thinking that I want to do a disservice to those that I'm serving.
Yes,
or like
definitely.
teachers. I don't think anybody wakes up like that, but yet we're all humans, and I'm not giving them that negative experience as a break in anyone, but it's kind of frustrating. It's like, can we just come together on this?
Yeah, and that's all we were trying to do was getting, again, like the math example we were talking about, and we were trying to get school and home on the same page, doing the same things to get her advancing faster. But the goals that they would set for her at the beginning of the school year would stay in place until the end of the school year, and then all of a sudden she would master them. And it was things I had already taught her in the behavioral therapy. And it was things that she should have been like, popping off, but no. It was just, and I was constantly trying to push for them to, do more stuff. And
now throughout like different services, and we're going to talk a little bit about kind of getting back out of the school system, doing some homeschooling. But have you seen with Alicia where she's made progress and then there's been a stop in services and her progress is kind of forfeited until she starts up again?
Yeah, that happened. Are you referring to when she was in junior high?
Yeah, but even like earlier in her life, when she was stopped doing some or maybe early intervention services, or like the weekly visits kind of stopped going on there, would you see that she would regress a little bit?
Oh yeah, definitely was a regression and everything, because it seemed like we only would take like a baby step maybe forward and then like 50 back.
Yeah.
Yeah, and her behavior was constantly up and down. We had learned also too that she had food sensitivities and so on. She's seen countless doctors outside of the home. I mean, local doctors couldn't really do much, so we had to find certain kind of specialists. Back then they had what were they called? Oh fudge! Now I can't remember it.
That's okay. I would like you to read the last paragraph on the first page of the excerpt that you have, starting with. I was absolutely terrified my daughter's future, and I have learned to lean into God. And during hard times, I would like to say I turned to Him in everything. I think that's
eventually I did.
Yeah, I think that's I think that's sometimes we have to do that more than we would like to admit, but that's a great source of, without going too far down there, but it's a very powerful source.
Yeah.
That can help.
Definitely, and everything. And I just learned of a beautiful story. It was a lady who was saying that Moses asked God his name, and God graciously complied and said it was YHWH. And that's actually breathing. So every time, even when a baby is born, the very first thing they do is say God's name.
Huh. Did not know that.
Yes, I'll send that one.
Yeah, you have to send that.
It was beautiful. I was like sending that to everybody. Thank you, Judy.
There was another thing here that you said, when Alicia's been forced into environments that she's not happy with, or maybe people are being disrespectful, you wrote down, yet I pity them for not knowing the chance. They completely failed, for they didn't clothe, feed, give drink to, visit, even notice Jesus right there. He will say to them, I don't know you, for you did not give the lesser of these. It was me. And I feel like if more people had kind of that belief when interacting with others, that it would make for a lot more better society and better communication.
Yes, definitely. It really hit me hard. Alicia was having to have her throat scoped at the local hospital, and I was not very happy with the anesthesiologist. They had their protocol, and it was not a very smooth transition for us at all. A procedure that takes 5 minutes, it took them 5 hours to do it, from start to finish. And the next day, now my husband is a power lifter and everything, and the next day he was like, Sonya, my back is locking up. And I said, that's what's called stress. That's what I've been dealing with for the last 20 something years. So yeah,
welcome.
Welcome to it. And but what it is you are so stressed, your body is constantly flooding with endorphins to get you through it, or adrenaline I should say, to get you through it, because we were having to try to keep her on this bed to get her an IV started, pain, and they didn't give her anything for pain until she had a blood test done. And I was like, are you kidding me? And then they would take long periods of time in between, but her gastrologist had prescribed her some medication to help her to stay calm, but only 5 of them. She took all of them before they actually gave her anything for pain. And so it was just really rough on us, on me and my husband. And of course she doesn't understand what's quite going on when we're trying to explain it to her. But again, if we had video to show her beforehand the procedure, what would be expecting and things like that, it would have went differently.
I noticed for my aunt that if I'm going to ask her to do something, I have to give her time to absorb that.
Exactly.
So like if she's just lounging watching some TV and I were to ask her if she wanted to go to the bathroom and then try and assist her to get up out of her chair and go to the bathroom, she wouldn't like that. But if I was like, hey Bridget, in a few minutes, let's try and go to the bathroom, she can sit there and ponder like, okay, I guess we're going to try and go to the bathroom now, that kind of stuff. But to take your time there. And then one of the things that she does not like doing is people being like around her face. She doesn't like to wear hats, hoodies or anything like that, scarves. She will not do masks. Forget about it.
Yeah.
But she doesn't like people around her mouth. And so it's tough to brush her teeth. It's really tough at the dentist. Yeah. She'll bite or, she'll try and harm whoever's there as well. And she just doesn't understand that. And we've used Sparks, which has been great in UAB. But there are times when I had to go, especially when I first got here, I wanted to see what it was like. And initially it was like strapping down. You want to sit down and talk with us? Let's go ahead and zoom out.
Oh,
I'll get this out of your way.
go sit.
Do you want to show us how to use the Tech Talk board?
Oh, you want to sit?
Chips?
Would
Do you like chips?
Yes.
Can you
Okay.
tell me? Do you like chips?
Yes.
Can you show me?
No.
No. See?
Don't want to be a little stubborn right now,
Yeah.
Mom. That's okay.
Is it funny? Sometimes it's funny and everything to do the opposite answer.
I like chips. I like ice cream too. Ice cream's pretty good. You know what my favorite thing is though? Beef jerky. I like munching on some beef jerky. It's pretty good. I got to give a shout out to Leeds. They have, what's that big gas station? Buc-ee's. If you guys have been there, their beef jerky is so good.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. All right. So let's get back to the dentist. So I was a little bit shocked at first because, they would use maybe some strap downs to try and hold her in the chair.
Yes.
And this is the first time I'm ever seeing this. And it's like,
Yes,
what is going on
terrifying,
here?
isn't
Yeah.
it?
And I just had to say, guys, let's step back for a second here. Let me talk to my aunt. And then I got, close to her in the chair and just like, hey, it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
And kind of talked her through it. And she had a much better experience after that. Same thing happened when she got an MRI. Now,
Lord, yes.
Yeah. And I was in the room with her and I had my hand like kind of touching her foot. It was like the closest thing that I could touch just so she knew I was there. She did great, but to be able to prep and give her time to do that. Are you wanting some chips right now?
You want to ask Chantel to help you with your chips? You want the hot sauce too? Oh, she loves hot stuff. I should also explain to Alicia, her dad and everything is Italian Indian, and she has loved hot stuff ever since she was a kid. I'm like, I would bring snacks for preschoolers, and they're like, her teacher would be like, Sonya, you do know and everything. Other kids don't like hot stuff. And I was like, well, sorry. I was like, it's hot fries. Everybody eats hot fries.
I love hot stuff.
Oh, I do too. She really does.
On the second page here, if you wouldn't mind, I'd like to just read a few of the things that you've written down, and then we can talk about it a little bit.
Okay.
You say the pattern of Alicia's life has went like this: prejudged before knowing her, dismissed as quickly, limited and diluted expectations,
Very much.
ignored and passed over. You say Alicia is smart, resourceful, observant, determined, organized, precise, and has many more untapped qualities. Do you still kind of feel like her future is going to have some of those negative things there?
Oh, yes, it very much everything, because mine does. I was diagnosed with autism in January 2020. And I did so because to show and everything that, well, I was struggling with things, but yet people, when it's an invisible disability, people still treat you as if from their perspective, and then no one ever puts themselves in your place or ever thinks about it. But as I was a child and everything, I had so much empathy that, I mean, like my sister would get in trouble, she would get a spanking, and she would have to be consoling me. I mean, it was just that much and such. And I had seen a lot of the same things that I struggled with her, and she struggled with. So yes, I can very much say in everything, any person with autism is going to have a lifetime struggle with the general public, period.
Yeah. And those invisible disabilities, like you said, they're tough to see or, even really identify. So like when I was in second grade, I had trouble reading, and I had to go to another classroom and do my own coursework with a couple other students with a special book and that kind of stuff.
I did too.
I hated it.
I did too.
I remember there was like this turtle and this hare. I can't remember their names, but I hated that book.
I think it was Taurus and the Hare.
I hated
Probably.
it. It was like this big long workbook that they made out. And, but I just remember like, having, it was the time of the day that I would have to go to this other room. And I just felt like, well, why do I have to leave and go over there?
Exactly.
You know, kind of thing. And then, then at home I was made to read, a certain amount of time during the day to help out. But it's kind of like dyslexia was a little bit there. So this paper that you wrote, this would take me 2 weeks to write. Yeah. I hate writing.
Yeah, it took me a long time to write.
Yeah, I am very bad at writing. I hate writing.
Yes, me too.
That's why I'd rather talk to people.
Yeah, me too. I'd rather talk. I was in a class like that too, but you know what I did? Instead of actually doing it, because it was these two little old ladies that was in this resource room, I would sneak over and I would get behind them and I'd start massaging their shoulders, and they would let me do that for the entire time I was in there. And so eventually, the way they had it set up was that I was supposed to do like so much work during class, and then when I got that done, then I could take stuff home to do and everything. Well, whenever I got to that part and everything, then I had to actually do it at home. They wouldn't let me buy with massaging them.
Now, you also say here that Alicia's basic American rights have been repeatedly violated.
Yes.
What are some examples of that?
Well, with the predetermination and everything of even entering into the school district, also too, they, in order to, I feel like, to keep the scores up for the schooling, they talked us into putting her on the AAA with expectation that she would eventually change it, or it was led to be believed that way. And but it was sorry.
Oh, you're fine.
It was all the way throughout school and such that she was treated in those ways of because she didn't. Well, there was one IEP meeting I was in. The OT was a very highly regarded OT by parents who I had very much respected their opinion. The school district had hired her, and she's sitting in this IEP meeting, and she says, well, what's the point in teaching a 3-year-old how to tie their shoes? She was referring to my daughter as 3 years old, and what was the point to teaching her? And I was like, I don't know what's even in her head. How can you even judge that?
Yeah.
I mean, you don't know what someone knows until they do it.
Yeah, that's the exact same thing. Like the doctors for my aunt, the clinical diagnosis is 18 months. Does an 18-month-old lock you out of the house and then laugh about it?
Yeah.
Or if you're going down the road, put
Exactly.
your car in neutral and laugh about it?
Yes, exactly. See, the way it was always was explained to me, giving a person with autism an IQ score is giving a blind person an eyesight test. But also, too, it was also explained that there was like 3 people in one. Like there's the lowest age possible for the person to be operating at. Then there's the legitimate age of the person, and then they can really excel, because like when Alicia was in toddler preschool time, I could put stuff up on top of the refrigerator for her not to get to eat.
Yeah.
She would climb it
Yeah.
and get to it. And I'm like, seriously, like a little spider monkey, you know? It's like, but she would not make a word. Oh snap, I dropped that.
So she was showing, physical strength there, especially, but maybe just not communicating.
Yes, exactly. She just couldn't communicate that she wanted it, and she would look at, she would smile just as sweetly as possible. But yeah, but then, like I said, we found that she had food sensitivities, and as we learned about those food sensitivities and took her off of that medicine or off of that food, her behavior increased much better and was communicating more clearly and stuff.
Yeah.
But we still, because of the eating disorder, she developed an eating disorder from schooling because they were doing like your aunt. She would eat off other people's plates and stuff, but she was so anxious and so overstimulated from being in school and around so many people that she would just take and shove I saw her do it. She would just take all of her food and shove it into her mouth. And I would send her portions that was appropriate for her age.
Yeah.
And they were like, well, she needs more food. Well, I sent more food. She was getting like 2 meals in one, and it still wasn't enough. And as she grew more and everything, because she was getting much more bigger, but she also wasn't very active physically, and which did not help her with taking her weight off or anything. Well, then the reason why she's at the weight now was that she was on a different type of medication in her senior year, her very last year of school. And I didn't realize, how much weight she had gained then until she had went to prom or something, and she couldn't fit into the dress what he had bought her. It should have been appropriate. But anyways, then she had, but looking back, it was because of the medication. It increased eating, and it was known to help gain weight.
My aunt will do the same thing. She will eat and loves to eat. It's one of her favorite things. But she'll eat till she throws up.
Yeah, well, Alicia, she doesn't eat until she throws up. She sensory eats. So that taking all that food and shoving it in her mouth, that's a lot of crunching down plate and everything. And that's why she asks for chips. She likes a lot of hard.
Kind of grinding the teeth a little bit.
Yes, grinding her teeth. I mean, you can see her teeth are very flat. They used to be kind of like mine, but a little bit more so. But now they're all completely flat. If you give her a lollipop, a dum-dum, she'll bite it and give it back to you.
Oh, it's got to hurt the teeth.
Oh, yeah, you would
Remember
think.
those jawbreakers back in the day?
Yes. And that's what it sounds like when
Yeah.
she did it and everything. It sounds like she's dislocating her jaw.
I do that. I grind my teeth. My dentist says that I got to be doing it when I'm sleeping. But he's like, this part of your face, the muscles right here, are
very
way
tight.
bigger than they should be. He's like, you're grinding your teeth all day and night. And I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, and you can tell that she is doing it too.
Yeah.
Yes.
You mentioned food sensitivity. Was that like corn syrup, or what did you find in?
No, she has. I have a list of it if you need to see it. But it was gluten, dairy. What else is it? There's also nuts, peanuts, cashews, borderline for almonds, and of all things, kidney beans. Child's never ate vegetable in her life,
Really?
other than when she was a baby.
Now, if she were to eat these things as a baby, like you say, would you notice a change in attitude right away?
I think it builds up since there's a great deal of time that she hasn't had it.
Yeah.
You don't see it immediately. It's a slow change in behavior, but it gets volatile. Because the reason why she has short hair is not from my preference. She was ripping her hair out at the top of her head. And I was like, oh man, I really got to go get her hair cut. And I just could not do that because she's a girl. She needs to have her hair long.
Yeah.
And then she ripped it out on the side, and I was like, gotta go now.
Yeah.
And so when I did, they did it in a pixie cut, and it was so adorable.
I like your hair right now, Alicia. It looks very
Yeah,
good.
everybody else kind of does too and everything. But I was like, when I first saw it, I was like, oh, she looks so much like a boy.
My aunt has a very similar haircut.
Yeah. It makes it very easy to maintain, but that was something else I done. I cut her hair.
Yeah.
Me and my husband, we were dating. He was constantly dragging me to a hair salon, which I absolutely hate doing. So I talked him into letting me cut his hair. I said, well, we can just get some shears. I can do it. I can do the same thing they're doing. I watched them. And he did. He took a leap of faith and let me do it because he was really making hairstylists very nervous. Because he would like, I don't know if I like it. And so,
Now, how does Alicia like getting her hair done?
she does. Yeah, she does really good. I have gotten her used to hearing the shears in case that's what they needed. But then whenever we just took her last Friday, right? Yeah, last Friday. And I didn't take an account of all the other sounds and people talking in the salon.
Yeah.
And so I'm Miss Meg at Dimensions. I'll throw her a shout out. But anyways, she wants to work with Alicia and everything. I told her, I said, we'll bring her once a month and get her just fooling with her hair and everything.
Yeah.
And getting her used to the sounds and what's expected. I said, we'll make a little video for her so she'll know what to expect and do. And she said she can very much find a nice hairstyle that will look good on her. But as Alicia gets agitated, her hands come up higher and higher and higher until she gets her hair and starts rubbing it. That's why on one side is shorter than the other. Is for that. She's trying to. I'm going to just take this out. Oh, it fell apart.
Well, take 1 second. The mic dropped. We're going to go ahead and screw it back in here. No, you're fine. That's no big deal. So my aunt kind of does the same thing where the overstimulation, we're very fortunate that she has a great person doing her hair. She goes about once a month, but it's a pretty low key place where there's maybe only 1 or 2 people there. Yeah. She's been going to that place for like 10 places. You know what it reminds me of when you were talking about all the different noises? Remember that video in was it last week's Pippa or the week before where it showed what it was like walking through the mall?
Yes, walking through public places. Yeah. I was like,
that's an amazing video. And at first I thought the video was lagging, and then I'm like, no, this is.
Really, the way it is.
Yeah, I thought it was a connection issue there, and I was like, no, and it was an amazing video perception there to take that into account.
Yeah, because that's the way I did. We took Alicia to the mall one time, and she was much older. I think she was probably about 10. Maddie was probably about 3, I think, when she got her ears pierced. And Alicia would be obsessed with the carousel.
Yeah.
That they would take down, but she wanted to get on it, but then she wouldn't. Then she just had this huge meltdown, and I'm having to drag her back to the front of the mall to leave, and then I don't have keys to get in the car. It was a nightmare mess, and my husband was at Claire's with our youngest and everything, getting her ears pierced. So I was like, oh yeah, so it is a lot to go into public places and then it's like, really, what is the expectation here of me? Why do we have to be here?
Now, does she enjoy, Alicia, do you enjoy going to the mall now? Do you enjoy going to the mall at this age?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, a little bit and everything. She likes going to Chick-fil-A, definitely. And
So do I.
But that's just it. She kind of like will go do one part, but she won't be willing to go do anything else that you want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
that's another goal we're having to work on now and everything. I'm really needing for her to get out into public places and I really would love her to be able to express her own self and be able to shop for her own clothes. But she shops right now out of her closet.
Now, we were talking about some of the basic American rights, human rights that have been violated, and you went through the right process of, speaking with the organization that was involved there, letting them know of Alicia's rights, and then also going to the next level, if it needed to be, where you reached out to private lawyers or other public organizations that help, such as ADAP. So if you could talk a little bit about that, just for maybe another family member that would be going through the same thing, looking for more legal help. Yes,
ADAP definitely is a good resource and everything. Even I don't know how getting in contact or being able to search for Zoom meetings to learn more about ADAP, but that would be definitely a good thing to do if you're just starting out trying to learn about what their services are and stuff. But
for you,
when we did it, I just called them up and I was telling them about one time, for example, in junior high, I was wanting to just take her home at 2:00, and they were like, "You can't do that." And I'm like, "Well, why not?" And everything. She's already getting on the bus at that time, so why can't I? According to y'all and everything, she's already out. And I called up ADAP and I was explaining that to them, and they took that on. They were suing 3 county school districts at that time. But Alicia didn't get not 1 second of time back that was wasted on the bus till for payback for the time that was lost for educational time.
Yeah, I feel like that's a common theme where it's like you said between your 2 daughters, it's been tougher for Alicia to get what's hers.
Yeah.
But you never get that time back. So all the time that you're fighting with the teacher, or I want to say
3 months
fighting.
in between doctor's visits and things like that, and testing and everything. Yeah, you feel like there is so much is just being wasted away, because what do they tell us and everything, that whenever a child is young, their most informative years is when they're young, and they're making all these pathways in their brain, and if it's not stimulated, it dies off. And it's really hard to get back. I mean, it can regrow, of course, but it takes a lot of intensive therapy.
Yeah, you got to strike while the iron's hot.
Yeah, exactly. It's much better to do it then. But
so you reached out to these individuals, lawyers, and organizations, ADAP, and they successfully pleaded your case and got it. But then, as I understand it, not much changed after that.
no, because it's like the same scoring was always that 1 and 2, and they claim that they have someone who oversees the each child's IEP and make sure that they're on goals and everything's being addressed appropriately for in the schools. But I was like, how can this be appropriate?
Yeah.
And by the time she got to high school in her last 2 years was finally the way we needed it in elementary school. But it was too late by then.
So actually in high school, it started clicking near the end. And it was a perfect environment for her.
It was a different special ed coordinator and for the district and stuff. And she wasn't with that one that long, but some of the things from the previous coordinator was able to be led up to that, because she got extended school year, which was only weird. I mean, because I thought school year would be kind of like the way summer school was done when I went to summer school. But the way they did it was it changed each summer. She would go 2 days a week for only 2 hours. And at the tech school one year, another one was at the elementary school. And then, but she never did go, and then it rotated like every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And only for 2 hours for that week, and then she'd have a week off, and then it would back again. So it never made sense to me how extended school year worked.
No, but you also mentioned that there was a new person kind of in charge of that program in her last few years in high school, and it made a big difference. And I feel like that's such the case for a lot of it, is like the person that you have contact with at whatever organization or school that is at that time. It's so important that they are the right person for the job and that you have a good relationship with them.
Wow.
It just helps the situation all the way around. Like even for my family member, her point of contact is her case manager. That's her first point of contact with the services she receives from the state and from insurance. And it's very important that she has a good relationship with her case manager, and also I do as well, to help her communicate those. If we had somebody that I didn't feel was a good case manager, or we didn't have good communication, that would make my family member's life a lot harder.
Yes, and I think there's not proper training for case managers as well and everything. I know I'm coming more aware now. There's a good bit of turnover in that field. And so their training is lacking, and sometimes like they don't know the full scope of what their responsibilities are, and they're having to constantly check back in with her regional office and such.
Yeah, and there's more duties that are being put on them.
Put on them too as well, yeah.
We've been very fortunate that my family member's case manager's been with her since I've been here, so it's been 5 years.
Yeah.
I feel like we're very fortunate. And that longevity is so important to Bridget. She likes being comfortable with the people she's around.
Yeah.
And it's her support there. She likes that consistency in her day and the people that are around her. Like one of her caregivers, Bobby, has been with her for 15 years.
Yeah.
She, to Bobby, Bridget's like a daughter.
Yeah, I mean, really, yeah. That's exactly what I want and everything with personal care assistants that come into our home. I want them to be like our family because they are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because, I mean, they're here all the time and, I mean, and they have their own families and their needs and wants. But also, too, as they learn what helps with Alicia can also help with other aspects of their life as well.
Mm-hmm. And it takes time to learn those. It's not like you're going to have a great connection the first day.
Oh, yeah.
For my aunt, it usually takes about a month for her just to kind of warm up to you. For the first month, she's like, I don't know this person. They're in my house. Who is this person? I know that they're helping me, but I don't want them to be here right now.
Yeah.
And
how can she be able to communicate that as well?
And that's a lot of, me being there during that process and also Bobby being there during that process to kind of oversee how they're interacting and, moving forward there. But I usually say it's going to take you about a month for you guys to kind of start clicking.
Yeah, that's pretty good and everything. Unfortunately, we haven't, Alicia's case manager from her waivers only been out here one time, and that was for for a care plan meeting in January of 21.
I want to talk about the care plan meeting. Let's finish up with the high school.
Okay,
so,
cool.
The end of high school turned out to be pretty good. What does it look like? You mentioned going to what's the dance at the end of high school?
Prom.
So, tell me about Alicia going to prom and graduation.
She didn't get to attend any of that stuff. No one asked her to prom. She doesn't have any friends other than a young lady she met at the Y for the special ed or special needs adults when she was homeschooled at a point. And, but they don't really get together that much or that often.
When they do they have a good time?
Oh, Alicia does and everything. She's smiling the entire time. She's her friend's trying to get her onto the Moody Miracle League, even though it's further away for us, but she has already got a friend there. And the whole league is just so friendly.
I've never heard of the Moody Miracle League.
Oh, it's amazing. Look it up and everything. Yeah, you can just Google it. They also have a Facebook page too, and it's the where they play at on the field in Moody is it's literally called Miracle League, and it's what is it? That rubber foam stuff that wheelchairs can roll over for a playground.
Okay. That's
their field is made out of, and so all disabilities are welcome, and they'll do like I had to put in for her. Announcement song, Shake It Off, of course, by Taylor Swift. And as she comes out, they'll say something about her, just like she's in Major League.
Yeah.
Right? And then she gets up, and if she can have it pitched to her and she can hit it, they'll do that 30 times until she hits it. And or they can hit it off the tee, but it's a guaranteed home run. Mm-hmm. And I mean, it's kind of very vastly different from the sports that we learned about in Pippa, but the leagues up north and everything where it was integrated leagues. I wish we could have that here.
Yeah.
That would be awesome. But Alicia also goes to Hands in Birmingham for behavioral therapy, but they also created a connect group for teens and young adults to play kickball, and they just finished up last night was their last basketball for the winter time, but next will be kickball starting up in probably April.
Yeah, no, it sounds like an awesome event.
Yeah,
I think it's really important to get that physical activity in a group setting with others and peers.
Yes.
You get that sense of community, and it's almost like, so I wrestled for quite a while. Some of my best friends are just from beating each other up in practice. But you form that connection when,
yes, you do.
When you're on that team.
Yeah, and this past year, Alicia's birthday is in October, and my husband's like, let's have her a birthday party down there. And we did, and a lot of her friends from the Connect group and everything came and celebrated her birthday.
That's
with her.
awesome.
Oh, it was great. She had a ball, and they did too. They were sitting around all at their own table, sitting there chit chatting amongst themselves, and parents were walking around.
Now, so high school is done. At what age did Alicia graduate?
21.
21. And she's 25 now. So what happened after high school? What was that like?
Alicia was able to, well, she was already on an E&D waiver, and we had her aide was coming out in the mornings while she was in high school to get her ready in the morning. And then she would go off to school for the day, and I would pick her up. I would drive her to and from school because it's just right down at the end of the road from us. But then she would, what was it we did over the summer? I checked into VR over the summer for her, and they determined that she was unworkable at that time because of testing from, I believe, from Lakeshore. And then this past year, this past summer, we had her evaluated again by a doctor at VR, and he determined that she wasn't workable at that time or able to have independence. And it was dropped. But since then, I just got a call this morning from a lady who is going to be coordinating Alicia to be able to have speech therapy through Voc Rehab. And that was credited to the commissioner and to a VR and Graham Sessions and Byron White. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Just want to make sure I have their names right. But they, I guess, had collaborated and reviewed Alicia's case and such and everything, and saw that they could offer that right now. And I think we'll be trying to work on employment skills she needs. She needs exposure to the world in part and everything to know what kind of career she would want to go into. Because, I did put down a lot of things that she has very good attributes and such, but I don't know everything. And I loved one of the things that they had a job coach. It was in Pippa, the one in January, where he was saying that he didn't just ask the parents. He asked the friends and the friends' friends, because each relationship you have, you're a different person with each one.
Yeah.
And so you only know your whole story, but everybody gets a little piece of that story and represent. And I strongly believe that it's the community around you that's supposed to speak up for you. Just like in the parable, not the parable, but in the Bible where the friends were helping the paraplegic down through the roof.
I don't remember that story.
You don't? It's actually is on The Chosen as well. That's a really good one. I know it's in the first season. And but anyways, it was all of the friends are speaking up and getting him to Jesus. And he was able to get up, and he told him, he says, "You can walk, you're healed." And he walked out. So it's a very powerful story to show how community is all about everyone. All is all.
It takes a community to raise a child there.
Yes, it definitely does.
You mentioned that Alicia was on the E&D waiver after high school, continuing.
Yeah, she was on it before she got out of high school. We had to, first off, I kind of forgot about this when we were, because everything was kind of going so smoothly. We got her on the E&D waiver before she turned 18, and then since 2017, I believe. And then she, what was the next thing? Okay, then we had to get her signed up for SSI. And I was like, counting down the time and everything, because there was nothing that was ever covered for her by insurance. She was always ahead of all the advancements in Alabama that would support autism. And then, but when we got up to that point and everything, we did get her on Social Security. We also got her a, what is it called? A special needs trust. And we're looking into Able Alabama. But during that time period, we was getting all those things that they're in place. And then what was the other thing? But so I know that you can only be on one waiver at a time.
Yep.
So she would be transitioned off of the
E&D
onto ID. And during that time, it was kind of a seamless transition between the two.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and the only reason I think it was because the company that we had hired for the personal assistant was that company took on an ID section in their company and everything to cover that.
So that was kind of within house that they were able to transfer over the
Yeah,
ID.
and-
So in the E&D and the ID, that is services for Alicia to have one-on-one care. Is that
Right, yeah. And that was it's going to turn into probably to my PIPA project, that to learn why Etowah had, sorry.
No, you're fine.
But anyways, to learn our area, why they have so much in group homes and day habs, and there's not much else being offered to them. I mean, because they could be able to be productive citizens and be able to have their own places and to go to work and make friends. And they don't have to have just friends that were disabled. They can be out in the real world and learning the same as everybody else. That's the same basic respect and dignity every citizen of America should be able to have.
Now, it sounds like Alicia is living a pretty good life right now. She's on the waiver, which I feel like a lot of people I hear are struggling to get on that list.
Yeah, they are struggling getting onto it. I had a friend of mine who actually got in the waiver. When I first learned about waivers was in elementary school in an IEP meeting with Glenwood. The lady from there was telling me and everything about waivers and stuff, and I was just taken aback because, again, from early intervention, when you have a child and everything, I mean, because you've been developing as you think typical, normal yourself, then you're thrown in this loop of this, I guess, surreal life and everything that for disabilities and the way people treat people who are differently than they are, it's really tough to navigate and to understand. So you really have to have these organizations that are assisting and helping you, come along with you to help support your child. You're really thinking they know more than you, and they're going to be advocating and doing the maximum of their abilities for you, for your child. But we found that that was not necessarily the case in such and everything. I mean, there's things you can't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
But at the same time, too, when we was in this IEP meeting, everybody was sitting there and they were just like.
And it seems like a lot of jargon sometimes. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know what that word means, you know, and what is it?
Yeah,
what is a
there's
waiver?
like a certain language. You have to say it in a specific way in order to get this. For example, I was asking for, on the ID waiver, there's a part on there for services is for positive supports. And since Alicia's doing ABA therapy all of her life, I was like, finally, we can have this area transitioned off and to the waiver. And then my husband's going to be up for retirement soon, even though she's able to stay on our insurance till until we're gone. But she would, but I know he's not going to stay there forever.
Yeah.
He can't.
So Alicia's currently on the ID waiver, which helps her have somebody with her throughout the day. How many hours does she get?
She's
per
been
day?
approved up to 60 hours a week. But the thing is her daytime aid comes on Mondays and Fridays from 10 to 3, and then on Wednesdays from 8 to 3. Then she has an evening aid that comes from 3 to 8 on Mondays and Wednesdays. But the thing is also too, the personnel is not required to get ABA training.
Yeah.
Not that they have to be an RBT, just training. Because, well, my point was whenever she first received the waiver, I was like, I would appreciate having some help at home. I said, but it will not be any help to me whatsoever if they're not trained.
Yeah.
Because people, will treat them accordingly as they've been raised, right? Mm-hmm. And they won't realize that they are reinforcing a bad behavior that can turn into an OCD issue for her. For example, when she was 13, my husband was complaining that he was the only one who took out the garbage. I was like, oh, that's a great project. She can do that. Yeah. And so she did. And then it got to where she was constantly taking the trash out all the time with one piece of trash in it. Or we even had to lock away our trash can in our bedroom, in the pantry, things like that. And it was ridiculous. To the point, one night and everything, I felt like every other teen mom or mom of a teen. I'm laying in bed at 2 o'clock in the morning and I'm hearing my husband outside yelling at our daughter. She's out in the middle of the night, 2 o'clock in the morning, yay. But then he's like, you don't take the trash out in the middle of the night. And I'm like, oh, Lord, it will come back again. That's our little reality of life.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And she even was pointing. So if she didn't even have enough trash, we wouldn't let her take it out. She would invent trash. Go
really?
pour things out of bottles.
But
So
she liked taking the trash out and kind of,
Yes.
she's contributing to the household.
Exactly.
She's seen you guys do it. She knows it's something that has to be done. And she's wanting to please you guys in doing
Exactly.
that. But it
To another extreme.
She can take it to the the extreme.
And she also does that too with dishes in the dishwasher. She's really good about, she hasn't done that yet, but she'll have a glass of water.
Yeah.
She'll go over and rinse the water out of the glass.
Yeah.
And then puts it into the dishwasher. And then she'll just keep stacking them on top of each other.
Yeah.
And I love it and everything whenever somebody says, oh, Alicia, you got on everything. She can actually load the dishwasher. I've got 2 typical kids at home and they don't do it. And I'm like, you just don't understand. She's breaking my dishes too. And we had to go back and redo it before she turns it on.
But it's very good to see that she's wanting to,
she is.
help out around the house, and she understands that community family aspect there.
Yeah.
So she's got on the idea wherever she sounds like she's about to start receiving services through Voc Rehab. Has she expressed interest in working?
Yes, well, she hasn't come right out and said I want to go to work, but you can tell when she's doing ABA therapy and training, like pre-vocational stuff, like work boxes. We were just doing that there just to give her to be able to learn some basic things about a job.
Yeah.
And she loves to do that. She knows exactly what's expected of her and what to do. So to me, that work box thing can be transferred to an online assembly. What are they called? For a company. Like I used to work at Comtronics and I put stickers on the back of the phone.
Yeah.
It's basically the same thing. And
so she's expressed that she enjoys doing that type of work.
You can tell she very proud of herself when she knows what she's doing and she's accomplishing and she knows it's right.
Yeah.
So she gets a lot of that out there. And you were asking about earlier what it was like after she came out of school. She at first, of course, because summer and everything, and then you start back to school in the fall. When fall came back around, she wasn't enjoying it so much and everything. She was ready to go back into a structured environment, which to me, school doesn't really prepare or to help with transitioning for adults with disabilities because, really they need to be exposed to many different aspects of life to figure out what they would like to be able to do as a career.
And I think ADRS is trying to help that gap there. And
exactly.
It's very promising to hear that Alicia is enrolled with ADRS and will start receiving some of those services. What about...
we'll be enrolling tomorrow. She's going to meet up with us when we're down at therapy tomorrow.
And that all came from family advocacy for you reaching out to some of the leaders here in the organization saying, hey, Alicia really could benefit from having these services and getting the ball rolling there.
Yeah. Because I really didn't know much about Voc Rehab. I went to Full Life Ahead camps and learned about the cell waiver, and this service that's coming from Voc Rehab that will be assisting her is from SAIL, but not the waiver. So I'm still at the beginning of this, learning of this stuff. So, but she told me everything. It was definitely not in tie to another waiver.
That's good because I think, like you said, you can only be on one waiver at a time.
Exactly. Yeah. You gotta be careful about those things.
What do you think about? Do you think Alicia wants to live in her own home eventually?
I hope she will. My parents passed away in 2007, a month apart, which was a huge awakening for me and my husband. That's why we went ahead and got her a special needs trust and to get her our wills done and so on. So now we're at the point we need to go back and change some things. Since our youngest now is an adult, she would be probably the one would be more responsible for her sister, but I don't really necessarily, that's not necessarily my dream for our youngest to have to take care of her sister for the rest of her life. So
has her sister, how old is her sister?
18.
18. How does she feel about it?
I think, well, I learned from parents early on and everything on kind of what to do and what not to do, for examples. And I have never made Maddie to take care of her sister in any way. They're sisters, even when she would try to mommy her when she was little.
Yeah.
I wouldn't allow that and tell her, that's not your place and everything, that's mine. And but Maddie's dream is to go. She's accepted at University of Alabama. She'll be going in the fall.
Oh, congratulations.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Yes, and it was a friend of mine who's helping her get scholarships and stuff. It's her business, and I've been promoting her like crazy, but I'll try not to say her name. But anyway, she's an awesome friend and everything, and I met her through kickball.
Really?
Yes, I did. Yeah, we've been great friends, and we're both now are in Pippa together too. And but yeah, and I mean, she has the same passion as I do and everything. We want every person to the very four corners of Alabama to have services for the families and for the kids and everything, because it affects the entire family.
Yeah.
I mean, the entire family and everything, and it's been because extended family, they don't necessarily know how to support a lot of family. I admire people who've got a very good supportive extended family. Mm-hmm. We wasn't able to have that. My parents lived in our home county that we came from, and then but when they passed away and everything, I was like, okay, we really got to get on the ball on this and everything, because we need to have things set up and to be done with.
That support network. And Kim Spangler, who's also in Pippa, has talked about that in the support decision making.
Yes, I love her idea of hers is the dream team, right?
Yep.
For her, is it a bill or?
It's an act right now. It's a Colby
That's
Act.
Right. It's
ColbyAct.com.
The Colby Act, yes. And because of her inspirational speech and everything, I started setting up some people to be Alicia's support coordination team, her dream team.
And I think that's really important to have people that are invested there, just in case, like for myself and my family member, there's a backup plan. Backup to the backup plan. Yeah. If I get in a car accident or something like that, and I'm in the hospital, I can't. There's a backup plan there. Family knows what to do. Individuals, not to organizations.
Would it be like would you be able to set up like a power of attorney during that time period for them? To be able to do that?
I don't know. That's a good question. Right now, I'm the power of attorney for my family member.
But if you're incapacitated, and they know what to do, but they might still have to have some legal standing for it until you're healthy.
And even, so there is a process there through the courts. Like I can make a recommendation. I can put a recommendation down if something were to happen to me. I recommend that this person becomes power of attorney, or that this person becomes guardian, whatever that looks like. But the guardianship is appointed by the courts. So no matter what you say, it's up to the judge.
Yes, it is.
And it'll have to go through that process. But we've done broadcasts with Jennifer McInerney, who's also a part of Pippa.
Yeah, she's going to be the one that's going to help us with our next chapter and with the wheels and stuff.
And so she knows a lot about that. And I believe what the process there is, the court will appoint somebody to kind of do an assessment and kind of get you through that murky area until a final decision's been made. But she would be the one to kind of further get into that.
Yeah.
So I think that the supported or the dream team is a big thing to have for the success if anything were to happen, and just for Alicia to have like friends, that she can kind of count on there.
Yes, exactly. And yes, support to be able to turn to whenever we're not available. I want her to be completely weaned off of us and have her own resources to be able to do. And if she so chooses to have a home or whatever, I want her to have it.
I would recommend it, because I think that just as in sometimes maybe some early programs like early intervention do their best, but then that plan gets passed on. You mentioned that the IEP was already written, those kinds of things. Well, I think that may have come up from the earlier schooling, that kind of stuff. But all it takes is one person in that process that has a limiting belief that writes it down, and it just stays on that plan. And in the same way, I have limiting beliefs. We all do. We're all human.
Yes, we do and everything. I was showed that myself, because as I was growing up, I knew that something was different about me, but I didn't know what that was. And then, but there's little subtle cues throughout society that dictate who you are. And it's not really what's said, it's what's unsaid, and how you interpret that. Like since you were talking about it would take you like a week to write this out,
it took
me quite a while.
Yeah,
it really did. And I had to like really I have a problem with reading and comprehension at the same time. Now, if it's read to me, I can make all kinds of suggestions and everything, but to have to come up with the right word to describe it and then where to put that at is very overwhelming to me.
Yeah.
So this was because I took English class and I had an amazing teacher at Gadsden City's, whatever it's called, the college here, Gadsden State, that's it. But anyways, she had a grandson with autism, so we hit it off at being buddies and all. And I would listen to her and what she said to do, and I would do exactly as she would say.
Yeah.
But I had to record the classes in order to be able to hear, because there's too much distraction in the room.
Yeah. No, this would take me a long time. And even in college. So I studied like science in college.
Oh.
And it did a lot of math. And I was going to be a high school physics teacher. So I had a lot of physics
Yes.
and everything like that, which I really enjoyed and did well at. I had to retake English Comp 101 like twice, which is the entry level course
Yes,
there.
yes.
And I was like, I'm never going to be a writer.
No.
The creative writing, forget about it. I
Yes,
can't do it.
exactly, and everything. And my youngest, Maddie, she loves science. She loves math. So that's what she's wanting to go to Alabama for. But yeah, it was.
Well, let's talk a little bit. So Alicia just had her person-centered planning meeting with the case manager. What are some goals that came out of that? What are goals for Alicia that she's working on in the next year?
For her goals, I was still trying to get her speech, occupational, and physical therapy. As you can see, as she walks, she rotates her feet out to the side, and it's duck walk, so to speak, like her feet stick out like a duck.
Yep.
Which is awesome if she was a ballerina, but not so much for life. She's already fell once, so we're very concerned about her
Balance
physical, balance and everything. And the look of terror that came over her face when it happened, she really didn't understand what was going on.
When she fell?
Yeah, and she fell twice. She fell on Sunday night about 9 or 10 o'clock, and because of COVID, everything shut down, so you can't get to the store and get anything.
Yeah.
But luckily, her sister was at a friend's house who had a very long ACE bandage that was able to wrap her knee up. But she wouldn't even put pressure on her foot. When she would stand up, she wouldn't put pressure on it. She fell back down again onto the couch. But as she was doing it, she was actually right over there, and she was walking, but she like lunged toward her dad was sitting on the end of the couch. And we didn't know at first if she tripped or not and everything. So we didn't know it was her knee at that time. And but then the next day he stayed around for a little bit that morning before going to work. But it wasn't until about 11, 12 o'clock she fell again. And immediately I called our orthos and got her an appointment with my husband's doctor. And they were able to prescribe her steroid and a what's it called?
Like an injection?
No, it wasn't an injection. They wouldn't bring a needle around her because she was very agitated.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really hard even getting her x-ray done and stuff. They were very kind and understanding and everything about her situation with autism and not being able to, because I don't think she actually has attended that doctor's office before. So things like that out there, it could be overwhelming for us and everything because she wouldn't understand what about this place and stuff.
So one of her goals is being active and kind of figuring out how her body,
yes,
the balance there. And it sounds like she's getting involved in sports, which will really help out.
But those are still only for like short periods of time. It's not ongoing. Like I said, they're on break now until April.
Yeah. Well, I think that's okay because it's just to get the start there and the goals for my aunt, they take her longer than they may take somebody else. And maybe we're going to have an overlap from the previous year where she loves coffee. One of her goals is to make her own coffee. But that's taken a very long time for her to be able to use the Keurig, to get the K-Pod, to put the cup under, to know which buttons to push, that kind of stuff. She's had that goal, for a couple of years to get up to this point, using her tech talk. So I think it's okay as long as you're making progress and you're doing it.
Right.
It it doesn't always have to be like a 5-year plan. It sometimes it's just a goal for the week or the month. Like,
Yeah.
let's just get out and see if this is kind of cool to do.
Yeah.
So she's being more active in a community setting with sports. And then another goal, it sounds like, is employment.
Yeah, she's not doing anything right now for employment. That's her.
But the
other goal.
VR is going to start.
Yeah, hopefully and everything. But we were trying to get more services out of her waiver. There were some of the things that they covered and helped as well. But yes, they were enlisting VR's help with the employment part right now.
Yeah.
And the other things was trying to get her ABA covered, because I wanted to have something in place to the backup plan, so that her waiver can cover that. And then she can have, it's also is up in the air. We're not exactly sure how this works with personal assistance transportation. Like I said, she goes to appointments sometimes down in Birmingham, and it's been said that her aides could take her, and then again her aides can't take her. So that hasn't been cleared up. Because sometimes I'm getting older, and this is my job and everything, full-time job, arranging Alicia's day, and I don't have much time for my own self. And I really would like to have my own job to be able to help families as well, and to be more, supportive in my own community.
Yeah.
And getting out and being in touch with and getting more things in our area for people with disabilities besides a day hab or residential.
And I think I remember my grandparents talking about it. It was a lot of time spent and energy spent to get the system in place. But once you have that system, it's not like you can walk away. You always have to tend to it. But it relieved a lot for my grandmother especially.
Yes.
And my grandfather's peace of mind.
Yes.
And so I feel like, just spending time with you and Alicia today, you guys have had challenges throughout Alicia's life. And very frustrating what you wrote. But you rose to the challenge, and maybe it didn't happen immediately, but you helped Alicia overcome and get these services that she needed.
Yeah.
May have been late. I understand.
Yeah. God can grow anything.
And
And that's what I believe. And I believe He's got a special plan and purpose for her, and she's going to be able to do, not just because of her mom and everything. I truly believe every person has a purpose and in fulfilling that, and either death or life can be spoken over it for them to do it and everything. But I really feel that Alicia has had too much negativity spoken over her throughout these years and everything, and it's really hard to, it's kind of like that anti-bullying commercial that they come out with, that these comments were said to a person online, and then how many it takes of positive stuff to cancel that out. Yes, to erase it, or to put it down so it's tiny, and it's not a real part of you.
And I feel like she's now at the point of her life where she seems very happy. Seems like she has a great relationship with her aide. And she's on the ID waiver, which is long-term. She's going to be getting folk rehab services. And this is kind of like you are helping her not finalize, but really structure that system for her. And I'm excited because I feel like it may take a while. It may take a year or two until you're very happy with the system. But I feel like that structure for her is coming about.
Yes.
And it's going to be great for her and also for you as well.
Yes. And the other thing I find so frustrating is that we are privileged enough that I could not work or take care of her all these years and have access and to learn as much as possible and to what to do and how to do this and that. But other families don't.
Yeah, you're very knowledgeable about the community.
Drives me crazy and everything. And then there's also that learned helplessness I find so much.
What do you mean by that, learned helplessness?
Well, from psychology and everything, that, this is what we got. We're just this is the best. Like, for example, some parents and everything, they just they didn't know about waivers. They didn't know anything about any resources from the state or anything, and they're just like, they don't know to look into it. They don't know that this is available to them to tap into.
Or they might not have the time, like you said. This is a full-time job.
It is. It very much is. And then if you've got people who are surrounding you that's like-minded in that sense, then you're not going to look more. And I didn't have that, so I did look more. But, I mean, that's kind of the thing I was explaining to some people. They don't want to, they're content with their, so to speak, with their crackers and their water, you know. I was using that as an analogy and everything for what a waiver can do is like if it was a food supplement type thing or supplication, that right now she would have like, you know, crackers and water and everything she's surviving on until she can get the services that she needs, which would be the meat and the potatoes. And how could you deny someone meat and potatoes when you know that they need all of this nutrition to help them grow? Now, can a person live off, you know, crackers and water? Yeah, they can. It's not going to be a great life, but they can.
And you mentioned that some people don't know what's available, and I feel like they just have to see the possibilities.
Yes.
They have to meet you and speak with you. They have to meet Alicia.
Yeah.
And they have to be educated a little bit.
Yeah.
And I wish more people would do that at an earlier age. And I think it's important to see success stories. You know, this is possible. The great.
Yeah, that's funny you say that and everything, because even back when Alicia was not having good days, it was just good moments. I would look at those success stories and I would be resentful about it, and like, you know, why are they so privileged they were able to do that? They're not having the same issues I am. But the truth is that everybody has a different story and throughout their life and everything, and it's just a different circumstance, because we always want more, but yet but we need to appreciate what we got too at the same time. So,
I've met families that have never heard about any services, and their son or daughters homeschooled, living at home in high school.
Yeah.
And they've never had any early intervention, that kind of, they don't know anything.
Yes, because they didn't know and everything. They didn't have a doctor who suggested them go to a hearing clinic. The hearing clinic suggested go to this place, and then that place recommended something else.
Yeah, and you hear that there are...
And they just go, you know what, we just ain't got time for this. We got to go to work. We got to support the rest of the kids. We got to be a part of this ball game, and then we got, you know, family reunions and things to go to. And yeah, and life is busy and it's hard and everything. You really do have to have a good support structure as well.
Now we're going to kind of come to a close here, talking with other families, and then I'm going to transition and ask you a couple questions about Pippa. But is there anything, or what is your ask right now? So if you could have anything for Alicia, or anything Alicia wants right now, what would be the next step for her? Would it be getting her own place? Would it be working?
No, she needs a lot of prep stuff where she can, independence being taught to her and such, and everything is cleaning. She still needs an education and everything, because I'm not sure exactly what all she learned in school. I feel like it was she was deprived of an education, and there wasn't much in transition services as well. I even started advocating for her to have transition when she was 14, and like I said, we had trouble throughout schooling.
Right, so it sounds like a little bit of independent living skills, and I know there are corporations throughout the state that do that, like Lorenzo Brown at Is Able. We've done a number of broadcasts with, has a great organization, Disability Resource Network up in Huntsville. I'm not sure about this area, but I know those services are available.
Yeah, everywhere it's a drive to anywhere to get any kind of services. But here was the thing too. I was in a Zoom meeting with Alicia's case manager and the leader of her regional office. Yep. It was described in this one meeting with United Abilities, which we were looking for the speech therapy at that time, because they were well trained in her device. But that's an hour and a half to go there, and it was she would have to stay in attendance for 5 hours. That would mean 8 hours for me in the car. Yeah. Every day. Just staying down there, because it's not worth driving back, especially with gas prices going up like they are.
You guys just moved to Birmingham.
Yeah, I know, really. That's what they said. Literally said that. Yeah, they literally said that. And then something else that was mentioned that they were, I can't remember who it was saying that our area has the most group homes and the most day habs. And I'm like, then later on I was like, why can't we just close some of these day habs, pull that money together, and have all these resources that are available on the waivers
Yeah.
to have and do a place based around that, like job coaches and speech and occupational therapy, behavioral therapy, physical therapy, even having like yoga classes and teaching how to good coping skills for adults as well, and along with family psychiatrists for them to talk to and to get treatment from, talk therapy.
Sounds like that's your next project.
Oh, that's what I wanted to start out with, but I knew that was too big to jump on, and I would love that and everything, because my husband is he was a manager. He's not now, but he still works at Honda in Lincoln. But he would know how to run an organization like that, I would think. And,
Yeah.
And he's up for retirement in a few years.
That sounds like a good family project. How's the internet going? Okay. I just want to ask a couple things. So what's your PIPA project this year?
Right now, I'm working on something kind of similar to that. I was wanting it to be statewide available, but right now we're coming up with surveys to ask families and such, if they know about waivers or resources, trying to find out how we can get to the more rural areas of Alabama, but and to see how I guess it would be the departments, each of the departments are supporting recipients of waivers and of whatever other agencies that are available to them, and if they have knowledge of those as well.
Kind of gauging the community at large.
Yeah, and then I'm hoping to be able to take that data and be able to find some of the flaws in the system to help with this state to better prepare.
Yeah.
And maybe even make suggestions on top of it to what could be done. I really feel like we need, since this new waiver is coming out with the CWP, that we really need to start getting the ID and living at home waiver on the same page. That they need people in the regional offices with great empathy and has worked with people with disabilities and know what it's like on the front lines and what kind of situations they can be having. But especially people who think outside the box, and like I've had to learn how to do. I have a very unique perspective because we had to come up with different ways of teaching Alicia things. And it wasn't necessarily always the, I don't know, traditional school way, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Not about school, but to break things down in steps. It's kind of like what the gentleman was talking about, the job coach that was in the last live PIPA meeting.
Yep.
And he was saying that.
Alicia's going to join us. And I feel like those organizations and those departments will be very grateful
Yeah,
to have that
exactly.
feedback
and
from
maybe
parents.
to even to have them to come together and to collaborate and to open up communication among them as well, because we need them to know to be communicating and to help support individuals as well and their families, because we can't know what we don't know. Again, I mean, I don't know everything, but I know some things.
For anyone that's not familiar, if you could introduce PIPA and talk a little bit about your experience. So
PIPA is awesome. I recommend it to anyone.
yeah.
Oh, yes.
I know it
That's
just got
been part of
restarted
me.
this past year,
Yes.
but if there's somebody in the community out there, what would you say is PIPA all about?
PIPA is all about networking and communicating and getting more resources available to our loved ones and supporting each other in the process. I mean, because a lot of parents have depression and anxiety themselves and a lot of fear and such. But having PIPA and being able to be connected to other like-minded people who want to see change and see our kids' abilities and not deficits, because to me that is more the traditional way of society right now, is that they look at people and they only see negatives. They don't see them and see positives to them. So we have to come together, and PIPA helps that and everything with coming together and to see potentials. That's why I was able to write those positive things down.
Yeah.
But if anybody asked me on the spot and everything what would Alicia's attributes be, I wouldn't be able to come up with nothing. But it just inspired me in that moment to write those down.
I love that it's in person as well, that you guys have the opportunity to all be in the same room.
Yes.
And network there and spitball ideas together. Those
Exactly.
kinds of things.
Yes, that very much and everything. It was a little challenging at first since it is its first year and everything of getting people to communicate.
Yeah.
But I also started up the group chat for everybody. So now everybody's kind of talking more, and we're almost through it. And we're like, we need to actually go longer.
Wanted to keep going, yeah.
I do. I want to stay a part of PIPA and to help future people and everything for them to keep this thing growing because it really, because of 2020, a lot of businesses are seeing that they can't hire the traditional people from, they don't want to work.
Yep.
So this is opening up for people with disabilities to work, and they go,
kind of this
yeah. And
silver lining of the
beforehand,
pandemic.
they were seeing it like they saw them as liabilities. There could be lawsuits, this, that, and the other, insurance issues, but they didn't realize anything. They're very committed, and they do their jobs very well, and people love being around them.
Yep.
And that's something that is severely neglecting in Alabama. We should not. You're neglecting when you put people in a day hab, in residential, away from the typical world, you are depriving them of knowing them. And when you know people with a disability, you see them overcoming.
They'll surprise you.
Yes,
And
yeah, because you limited them, but yet they've got much more potential than you can ever know.
And I've seen that even from the family too, like some limiting beliefs from parents. And then when they see that their child is maybe on the playground playing and they're like, I didn't know they could do that, or they wanted to do that. Like, that's awesome. As we kind of come to a close here, is there anything that we haven't talked about that you think an individual or a family member could benefit from hearing? What would you tell to your younger self?
For me, tell to my younger self would be to, we're quite blessed in this time period, is to do a lot of research, connect. Like I said, we could have a resource center that is available on the web, on a certain website, I don't care what, but connect 211. And each county has not unique things, but each county has certain organizations that are available in every county, and all of those need to be connected together, and so parents can be able to look that up. And like I said, having videos of doctors being interviewed and to find out more information about those disabilities and the attitude of when a person is diagnosed. Well, let me just say this. When I got my diagnosis in 2020, since then I have told so many people, and the reaction is kind of alarming. But I only do it also too to see what the reaction is. Not that I care if they know if I have autism or not, but it's kind of discomfortable. Like, and they withdraw. Like, why would you want to be separated? Because I'm like, because I don't want to think like that.
Yeah.
Exactly. But also too, it connects us together and shows that everybody has their own issues and their own problems. There might not be a diagnosis to it, but no one's ever 100% right, nor are they ever 100% wrong. And when she was in early interventions, one thing I didn't say was that it was certain to be said to me and everything that since she was thought to have autism, they wouldn't diagnose her with it, of course, but because they couldn't. But they would go, she just doesn't think like we do, including me in this. And I'm like, what are you talking about? When did I get in this group? That's crazy and everything. I'm like, I don't want to be in this group.
I think everybody has unique strengths.
Yes, exactly. And I wanted to, all right, you can say Alicia very much doesn't resemble me that much. She's got dark hair, dark brown eyes. She looks a lot like her daddy. And so, but that was just it and everything. I felt like I was a surrogate mother or something other because everybody's like, she must look just like her daddy. I'm like, yeah. I just carried her for 9 months. That was all.
That reminds me of a really funny joke. You should get a maternity test.
Yeah, really need to. Yeah, I really should. I mean, because and her little sister is fair skinned, brown hair, and she has like hazel eyes. So yeah.
Well, I want to say thank you, Alicia, for being with us here this morning and telling us that you wanted some chips and using your communication device. And Sonya, thank you for spending the morning with us as well.
Yes, this was awesome. Is there a way that we can maybe schedule another interview in like a few years to see the progress?
Yeah,
and
we would love
show
to.
and everything, so that way you can maybe even show more.
Like when Alicia maybe has employment, or if she's
Well, I was thinking like in 2 years what's changed and stuff, and how
We would love to.
how is it advanced and such, because I really like to be able to put together, like I said,
a montage video.
A montage of video, kind of telling her life story and showing. If I could actually put that in a sense, it would be Linkin Park's Numb video.
I don't remember that song.
It's a girl who's walking through life and everyone is zooming around her and completely ignoring her. That's the way I would describe probably disabilities. That there should be the anthem of our state, really, till we get it changed.
Well, thank you once again. I'm definitely down to do the couple years. And at this point, we'll go ahead and look into our respective cameras and we'll say thank you for being here with us. And we will see you guys tomorrow.
Okay. Thanks. Bye.
And Clifton will go ahead and take us out. And he's going to go ahead and stop the live stream.